Now let us see the properties for inverse sine. So we have learned this during last semester. When an inverse function composed to that function x, the answer is just x. So you can see here, inverse sine composed with sine x, the answer is just x. You can just use the properties without any calculation. However, please be careful. This answer is correct only when it is within the domain. So let's see here. To take care of the domain of x, you must take care of the domain for sine. Okay, we must see the inside function here. So in order to take care of the domain of sine is within negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. You must make sure that the domain is only on a quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. Let's see the second one. Sine composed with inverse sine x. The answer is just x. And take care of the domain, which is inverse sine. So you must make sure that our x is within -1 and 1 included. Now let us see example 1. Find the exact value using properties. The first question is inverse sine composed with sine pi over 8. Okay, so we are not familiar with pi over 8. We can convert it into degree. This is 22.5 degree. So let's open up our quadrant. We must make sure that we are within quadrant 1 and quadrant 4 only. So 22.5, confirm this is in quadrant 1. 22.5 is here. Therefore, yes, you can accept the answer. You can just take the answer pi over 8. That is your final answer. Now let's see question B. Inverse sine composed with sine 5 pi over 8. So again, we are not familiar with this. Let's change to degree. This is 112.5 degree. So let's draw our quadrant here. 112.5 now is in quadrant 2. So we have a crisis here because like we said before, your domain must be from minus pi over 2 until pi over 2. So it must be only within quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. However, now we are in quadrant 2. So we must adjust this value in order to make it fall into quadrant 1 and quadrant 4 only. Why do we need to adjust the value? Because we must remember, originally, the domain for y equal to sine x is from minus infinity until infinity. We are the one who cut it only on this point here. So, if the value is outside of the point that we cut, we must adjust the value back and make sure this is within the domain that we want to take, which is from minus pi over 2 until pi over 2. This is outside of the interval minus pi over 2 and pi over 2. Therefore, let's adjust it using reference angle. So let's open up our reference angle. Sine 112.5 degree is equal to sine 180 degree minus 112.5 degree. So this is sine 67.5 degree. Or if in radian, this is sine 3 pi over 8. Okay, so we need to open up the value here. Why did we take a positive sign here? Because this is the house for sine second quadrant. So be careful when you open up the reference angle. So now, since we have opened up using reference angle, let's substitute this value here. Now, let's check. 3 pi over 8 is 67.5. So this is within the interval. This is in quadrant 1. Therefore, we can take the answer straight away, which is 3 pi over 8. Now, let's see the next one. Inverse sine 7 pi over 6. So 7 pi over 6 is actually 210 degree. So this is in the third quadrant. Okay, third quadrant, this is the house for tangent. Okay, so be careful. So we need to adjust this value here, make it fall into quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. So again, let's open up using reference angle. So let's open up using reference angle, sine 210 degree is equal to negative sine 210 degree minus 180 degree. Why do we have negative here? Because this is the house of tangent. We need to put a negative. So now let's open up the value. This is 30 degree. And let's change to radian. This is negative sine pi over 6. So now let's substitute this value, negative pi over 6, inside here, inside the bracket. And then let's solve this negative angle here. Okay, so this negative here, you can put into the bracket here. Okay, this is using even odd property. Sine is applying odd property, meaning that sine negative theta is equal to negative sine theta. So you can take the value to be inside here. So now let's check the value. Is this within the domain? Yes, because negative pi over 6 right now is within our domain, negative pi over 2 until pi over 2. Because this is now in the fourth quadrant here, negative pi over 6. So we can just take the answer here. Your final answer is negative pi over 6. So you can recheck your answer each time by using calculator. So let me show you how to use calculator. You can just punch in sine 210 degree and then punch the equal sign, and then you just punch inverse sine answer equal. You should get the answer here, negative 30 degree. Now let's look at the next one, sine composed with inverse sine half. Okay, and now we need to take care of the domain of inverse sine. So domain for inverse sine is from negative 1 until 1. So half is within the domain. Therefore, we can accept half. Your answer is just half. Let's see here. Sine composed with inverse sine 1.8. So now let's take care of the domain of inverse sine, which is from negative 1 until 1. So you can see here that 1.8 is above 1. See here, the highest point for sine, it must be 1, and 1.8 is above it. So originally, we didn't cut our graph. It must be the highest point is 1, but now this is 1.8. So obviously, we cannot accept this. Therefore, we can just write it as undefined. You can also check this using calculator. Shift sine 1.8. So this will give you math error. So that's the end for inverse sine.